There's been an absolutely titanic effort over the course of several decades now to get the public in the US, but around the globe, to care about climate change, to understand that it's going on and to understand what changes we might need to make socially and individually, but also in terms of government policy to do something about it. And it's been difficult. But now I wonder if along the way, the focus on climate change might have led people to pay a little bit less attention to some of the other things that are resulting from our emissions, other things that we're doing that aren't just starting to develop into disasters and will wreck our entire civilization in a few decades, but are doing terrible damage to us right now. And we've got some scary stats for you that we want to talk about. Now this has to do with the effect of pollution. So not climate change off in the future, but pollution right now and how many people it kills around the globe. And this new study estimates that every year it's killing 9 million people. And the belief is that that might actually be an underestimate. So the 9 million figure adds up to 16% of all deaths worldwide each year, killing 3 times more people than AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria combined. It's also, by the way, 15 times more deaths than wars and all other forms of violence.
Wow.
Now, when you think about what our government actually does to try to preserve your life, they focus on some of those a little bit more in terms of rhetoric, but also in terms of dollars. Now, if we can bring up this chart, you're gonna see some of those contributors in terms of deaths, and you just see how much total pollution outpaces other things that are causing deaths. Now, things like tobacco smoking, that's tragic because it's entirely preventable. I mean, some of it's secondhand, but entirely preventable there. And you have things like disease, alcohol as well. And then you see down like war and murder, how low that is. And it just strikes me, and we'll return to the pollution in a second, but it strikes me at how bad we are as a species at understanding and prioritizing the things that are threats to our lives. And when you think about the fact that supposedly evolution is selecting based on your ability to identify risks and mitigate them. But when it comes to these big things, it's not the tiger in the bush, but it's the pollution in the air, it's the emissions from a power plant. We can't seem to understand that that is not comparable to terrorism, but that it blows terrorism out of the water in terms of the likelihood that you or someone you care about could be injured or die. And as a species, we just can't identify it, and so we don't prioritize it when it comes time to fund preventative measures.
You know, this is an amazing statistic. I'm so glad you show this, but you mentioned evolution. Let me just mention this from an evolutionary standpoint. There's a book called Sapiens, which I really recommend to people. And one of the things that's discussed in the book is the fact that as a people, as a species, we're able to conceptually group ourselves. And one of the things that's separated us from others, I mean, even other sapiens at the beginning of time, was that we could create a concept that we could rally around. Like, all those people are bad, let's bind together and let's fight those people, or that thing is bad, maybe in this case, pollution. So the idea that we have created a notion that murder and terrorism and the other things on that list are the real existential threat to us, whereas the thing on the top of the list that's an actual existential threat is not talked about much, which is this pollution. In fact, we just elected an administration that is committed to removing the protections, which are flimsy already, basic air and water protections. And so we're actually feeding this machine because we've sold the concept, effectively, we've sold the concept to ourselves that the real threat to us is not this pollution. And pollution's bad, we all get that, but the real problem is the terrorists and the blowing up stuff and the shooting people. That's all bad too, but this is happening on an ongoing basis. I think it's alarming to see the stat laid out like that. Is scary.
And I think it does dovetail with the corporate media too, right? Because this isn't just an ideological issue. In part, the reason that there's, say, an emphasis on hyping some of the threats because of the war machine, there's a profit piece there. And the reason you don't talk about some of the pollutants is partly because they are susceptible to being gamed by the both sides, but partly because it's bad business if you sort of make your advertisers angry. And if they happen to be the industries that are putting a lot of money in there, you don't really make it a thing. And that's sort of a testament to how we need media to hold these forces accountable, not just political, but otherwise, and what happens when they don't.
Yeah, and I agree. And look, in my intro, I talked about how we're thankfully focusing a little bit on climate change right now. Now, thankfully, a lot of the things that we should do and must do to mitigate the worst effects of climate change going forward would actually help significantly with pollution. And so you alluded to the corporate media. I think until we get money out of politics, get money out of the media in this way, let's at least utilize the corruption. So the people who are making the solar panels, could you please start advertising on CNN? Please. And then the government, let's just throw, for the next 10, 20 years, let's throw billions in subsidies to people making solar cells. If you're going to sell out and if you're going to give all of our money to corporations, at least have it be the ones that are trying to save our lives, at the very least. But unfortunately, that's not what they're doing. And by the way, there's a quote from the study that says that the pollution is so dangerous that they say, quote, it threatens the continuing survival of human societies. And you will see these articles, CNN will have something on it. They're not gonna talk about it on the shows, but they'll have an article on the website, and Think Progress is gonna cover it a lot, and that's going to be great, it's gonna be awesome. But like today, when you look at what was actually in the news, One America News Network took the new stats about crime in the UK, lied that they had something to do with radical Islamic terrorism, which led to a word-for-word tweet from Donald Trump of one of their chyrons.
Yep.
When it says nothing about radical terrorism, here they're saying it's a threat to the continuing survival of our species, and we'll talk about it, and then we'll move on. And look, a little bit more information for you. Although they say that no country is free of the damaging effects of pollution in the present day, 92% of the deaths that we were talking about occur in low and middle income countries. And so it's not, there's no equality in terms of this. It's disproportionately affecting people who have less of an ability to mitigate it.
But that's the high ground intellectually that everybody's clinging to, or emotionally clinging to. It's like, oh yeah, I know it's bad, Johnny, but if that's over there in the places where people don't have a lot of money and it's sort of an, let's be honest, that's third world. No, of course. And I would also say this, it's also happening here. In this country, first world, the problems of air and water pollution are being lived out right here in this place with all the money. So if you look at the statistical breakdown, they'll even show you deaths from those diseases that you're talking about, emphysema and the like, happening here in the US. Yeah. So when you look beyond the headlines, the percentages, I know they're lower, but it is happening here. People are losing their lives here because of that pollution.
Exactly. Yeah, and when you or someone you know has to go to the hospital and go into bankruptcy to deal with some of these sorts of diseases, understand that every dollar you put into that medical care is subsidizing the corporations that put the emissions and pollution into the air in the first place. That money is still being spent. It's just not being spent by the corporation. It's being spent by you and me, unfortunately. And let's bring up this one more graphic just to show you a distribution of some of the things that are leading to these deaths. So I want you to understand that they come in multiple forms. This is graphic 8. Obviously, airborne pollution is significant. Cars and industrial activity. Also, by the way, look into shipping. It's not talked about much, but it contributes so much emissions to the air. But also toxic water, something we talk about constantly on this network. Workplace pollution, but even things like heating systems and things like that in the third world, very significant. And by the way, and this is going to continue on with my let's use the corruption thing. If people aren't going to care in this country and in this government about this problem just based on wanting to save their own lives, if that's not a significant enough driver of interest, well then let's bring up this graphic. Pollution-related deaths resulted in a 6% hit to global GDP, a loss of $4.6 trillion each year. So even if you don't mind that it's killing you, think about the money you could make if you were to deal with this. And by the way, as we said, all of these numbers are more than likely an underestimate of the actual effect, because many of the diseases that lead to several of the top 10 killers in America, things like diabetes and things like that, could have strong ties to pollution. They just don't know for sure yet, and so they're not included in these figures.
I posted a link to to an article about this Trump-Pence administration and the relaxing of those protections of the EPA and Alzheimer's disease and the rise in Alzheimer's from pollution, all right? So from the very thing that we're talking about. So the health effects reverberate beyond the fatalities to diminish the kind of life you'll have in this country because of, and it's, look, this is the stuff happening now. This new administration is really destroying the environment. So I'm so glad you did that story.
Support independent media. Come join us at the Young Turks. TYTnetwork.com/join.